afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum as we look at, how you could potentially overhaul the Wehrmacht, make it better, make it sort of fit more, as a well-functioning faction. And so we hit sort of this one point, has been, the sort of recently struck me, to sort of consider the different tiers. And I sort of thought about, hang on, what about tier 2, the light to mechanized company? Because here's the thing, it tends to be sort of very much the transitional tier. At most a player will just go for it to go for maybe a single pack or single 2-2, and then it's just straight into tier 3. It's basically a stopgap tier, or not even a stopgap, it's like a bus stop tier. Somewhere out on the dirt road that's like a bus stop out of nowhere. That's Wehrmacht tier 2. Like, it doesn't do anything like particularly well. It just, it has a pack 40, but compared to every other anti-tank weapon, it's largely on the same level, but doesn't perform nearly as well, isn't as durable as the Sword Tier 3, which I think is also actually rough, maybe a bit cheaper, but can also fire barrages. Harder to kill, has the same penetration more or less, has the same rate of fire, can spot for itself, right? And the the British one is more or less the exact same. And is it actually cheaper there? No, it's thankfully not cheaper, though it does have some other benefits, like it can move faster. The technically tired weep. I'm not saying that's bad over the pack 40, but it doesn't stand out. The Panzer Grenadiers, well, are nice, are kind of expensive, also have a bit of difficulty to get into good positions. Most players just tend to never go for a lot of them because, they're not that good compared to a lot of some of the basic Allied infantry. We just easily beat them, despite the Panzer Grenadiers, being harder to get and more expensive. The half-track is, not bad, but again, it sort of suffers from not being good enough either, and easily hard countered by Allied light vehicles. Usually, for example, again, with the Brits, you can get out a half-track at the same time your opponent had up the AC. And similarly, you can get the 2-2 out, which, you have to at least get 2 out to really have any impact. It can't even counter snipers. Like, it just feels like the light and mechanized company is probably one of those really overlooked parts of the Wehrmacht, to be honest. Like, even I overlooked it. It's not just something I think about a lot, in a sense, but it's sort of just this model, not entirely clear what they want it to be part of, the strategy mess. It's sort of part of the early game, the late game, or the mid game. It's not really anywhere. And I think that's actually a bit of the part of the Wehrmacht's problem. Like, if this start into tier 2, they don't really have a lot of options because, besides just going for double pack 40s, which works against armor, sure, but that's about it. You're not going to see a lot of players going heavy on Panzer Grenadiers or for more than one half-track ever, and so there's going to be any. It's the flame for a half-track, but again, a lot of them just be, one-offs, and that's it. You're never going to see something go for tier 3 and get one Panzer 4, and that's it. Or, tier 1, get one Grenadier, that's it. Like, you're never going to see that, but like with a lot of the tier 2 stuff, it's like, you get one, and that's it. It's get and forget, and then you just move on straight to the next tier. And I do think it sort of highlights, again, just a part of the whole, Wehrmacht's, confused identity element. Like, they have 4 tiers. The 4th is kind of too expensive, kind of weak. The first one is sort of alright. Third one is basically what works. And then the 2nd one is just, it's there. Like, it's literally there, but at the same time, it's also not something a lot of people really think about because nothing stands out about it. Increasingly, nothing excels about it. And I do think, in a sense, again, that also in part contributes to the Wehrmacht's issues. Like, what is it it's supposed to achieve? What is it is supposed to do, in a sense? Like, how does this sort of fit into the overall Wehrmacht strategy or sort of play style? And I think in part that's sort of a bit, again, it just feels like a stopgap, but it can't even do that particularly well. So I kind of feel like at some level there needs to be getting some overhauling of the tier 2, some figuring out what they want to do with it, and particularly the 2-2 just, is this weird sort of light vehicle. It's not even good versus snipers. It's supposed to be a sniper counter, but it can't actually kill them. For example, it doesn't really do anything particularly well, and there's even talk, I think, about bringing back the 2-2-1, which was even worse because you then had to upgrade in the first place to have a counter light vehicle, which can still, get out at the same time as the 2-2. That's all the problem. By the time you can get out the light and mechanized company, usually the opponent will all be getting, better stuff in terms of light vehicles, they're shock units, and your response is not adequate in a lot of situations. Like, I think there's again some kind of need here for just some figuring out of what Wehrmacht tier 2 is supposed to do. Again, I like Panzer because they're sort of cool on some of the basic level, but at the same time, they sort of can struggle to get a foothold. They can sort of struggle to get in there. Of course, once they get going, they're amazing. But with the investment and just how quickly they can wipe and then how hard they try to replace, they sort of, fed up in that sort of slightly weird, well, where are we going stage. And the Pak-40 again, just, it's pretty much every other anti-tank gun except you're supposed to be the Wehrmacht. So again, like, how does it fit in when it's pretty much just as the Allied anti-tank guns more or less now, except aren't they meant for dealing larger tanks, whereas the Germans are meant to go up against hordes of tanks? So I mean, hopefully you can sort of start to see there's some bits where just the elements aren't adding up. Again, if you're sort of, supposed to be outnumbered and all that, a lot of these elements don't really particularly help with that. There's not supposed to, help stall, by time. There's sort of more, again, like, you're ahead, you push ahead sort of stuff. So, I mean, again, there's just, what is it supposed to do? I really find myself struggling with this question. What is Wehrmacht Tier 2 supposed to do except just being the pack pit stuff? Because in many cases, that is what it ends up with. You go for a pack, maybe 2, then you push for medium armor, because Tier 2 is in most cases not going to cut it in a lot of cases you'll find. Unless you invest super heavily into it, but in that case, you get hard counter of medium armor. It's severely lacking in some way. And I do think that really hurts the Wehrmacht. I mean, it's sort of the part where you can't help but figure it would benefit a lot if there was some kind of ability to invest in some extra resources into Tier 2 and you sort of got access to another unit like, I don't know, the Marder or a Panzer III. Just sort of felt like it had more of a purpose, because I think that's sort of Wehrmacht Tier 2's, overall main issue. It doesn't have much of a purpose, like comparatively, the Wehrmacht Tier 2 from Companies 1 had the Grenadiers, which just, the best infantry, sort of basic infantry in a sense, a little kind of elite, kind of basic infantry for the Germans. They were sort of, the ground after the Volkskriegs, after the first team, they sort of pushed up with the Grenadiers. You had the Pack, which of course said that, the best anti-tank gun. You had mortars, which are here now Tier 1. And then, you had the half-track, which could suppress, that one was actually a bit more useful than the one here, though admittedly the Company's 2 flame for half-track is a lot better, whereas the one in 1 was a bit rubbish. But it felt like, it had more of a purpose, it's sort of more than, the stabilizer, then by time, with better infantry. But again, the Panzer Grenadiers aren't quite Grenadiers. I mean, again, they can be good, they can be really good, but at the same time, they can also really struggle, because a lot of the basic Allied infantry is just so good, they can easily take on the Panzer Grenadiers, and then you struggle to get them into an effective range. So there's a sense here of just the picture isn't quite adding up for it, and that really, again, begs the question. And I've really been stumbling around with this. What are we going to do? I mean, I think clearly needs to be some kind of recategorization of the Wehrmacht Tier 2, and part of me thinks, involves, figuring out something else for the Panzer Grenadiers. I think they need to sort of shift them more for just being, initially just better infantry with just rifles. Then if you upgrade it with Panzerschrecks, they can be upgraded with assault rifles. And then maybe they sort of toss in an extra ability with the assault rifles or something, not something like tactical assault, but, something else. Maybe also have a third upgrade with light machine guns. I don't know, just, sort of slightly shifting away from there so there's more options with the Panzer Grenadiers, lowering their overall initial cost, so they also become easy to just replace losses with, so that way they can sort of, long term replace Grenadiers. I think that would do a lot there for the Panzer Grenadiers. I mean, again, I love this concept, but there's also part of the dozen of it, because most Panzer Grenadiers were not equipped like this, so that could be, one way of sort of doing something with the Panzer Grenadiers. Either that, some late game upgrade with Tier 4 where they get infrared assault rifles or something. As for the half-track, I still suggest, suppressor fire. And for the 2-2 also, maybe some high explosive rounds. As for the Pak-40, I don't know. It's probably in a good position, but I think at least if we sort of shift around the other stuff there, at least Wehrmacht Tier 2 be, more interesting, Also something that'd be worth investing in long term, because again, that's sort of the thing with the Wehrmacht Tier 2. It's not worth investing in. It's just, it's very much a transitional tier in a faction that already has 4 tiers, which is, a lot more tiers than ours, so it kind of feels weird. You have to invest into it. Plus, I mean, it's pretty expensive, for a Tier 2, which again then has to immediately go up against light tanks and AECs and whatnot, and you're sort of just playing with what's essentially in some cases Tier 1 for others. So it feels very weird, and again, I think there needs to be some overhauling to an extent, at least of the Panzer Grenadiers. the half tank and the 222. Like there needs to be some kind of realignment of what it does within the sort of framework of the Wehrmacht. So my apology if this sounds a bit confusing, but I'm just really tired. But I felt like I wanted to talk about this, and I suppose also just want you to start a discussion upon it, because I mean, throughout all the years I've been casting companies too, like just Wehrmacht tier 2, I mean, even with the tier 2 rushes, well, that's probably some of the few exceptions, even those tier 2 rush strategies don't last long. I mean, it's just never a big thing. It's just, a stopgap, a step, sort of, but even then it's not in a very big step, so it just sort of feels weird. And I think, in part, it's probably a large part of sort of why the Wehrmacht just feels bad to play. It's because the Wehrmacht tier 2 just is this sort of vague, semi-dysfunctional thing that just doesn't particularly lead to anything. It can't really be part of a strategy. I mean, you can't really, in most cases, execute a tier 2 strategy because a lot of the elements just aren't that impressive unless you sort of really get going with veterans. Unless, you first have to get the veterans before they become good, which again is sort of just, this, hang on, how's this supposed to work elements. So, I mean, overall, I think there needs to be a look at the Pentagon edition, again, looking up to maybe just make them cheaper, have them with weapon upgrades that are reasonably priced, or just have them from late game upgrades so there's a reason for taking up, and then doing something more with them that way, sort of more explosively pushing ahead. But also the 222 and the half track, I definitely think those two also need some more reimagining and some rethinking, because again they're sort of just stopgap units again in most cases, because again they were the work. They're also just so late out and they're easily countered, which I think does require they pack more firepower compared to the allied versions, which again pack more firepower and also a lot tougher. So I mean, if they sort of have to be a lot weaker and all that, at least give them some punch, and that's a reason to get them, rather than just having them these in the 2-2 and a half tech and needs to be penetrated by shots. I mean, again, there's this dysfunctional side of the Wehrmacht design again that just I think sort of really shines through with tier 2. So that's sort of really my thought here. Again, like there needs to be some serious rethinking, and again I think it needs to be focused on the Pentagon, it is the half tech and the 222. So I mean, hopefully you agree with me in this, and again maybe I'm not being fully clear on this, but hopefully I've sort of explained it. But again, it's just this, the more I think about it, it feels incredibly vague for tier, incredibly aimless for tiers. So I mean, hopefully this video sort of is something that resonates with you. Actually, subscribe, like, share, comment on it. If you like what I do consider donating or pledging on Patreon. This is Imperial signing off, and I'll probably have another video about the Wehrmacht in the near future. So cheers everybody.